I'm just going to touch on a few things. Number one, we have been hit very hard in South Florida on home foreclosures. That has been a big issue for quite some time. We knew that for 15 years things ran up pretty well. Our properties went up in value, things expanded, and when it hit real hard. On the positive side, things seem to have settled a little bit. A lot of the money's been sitting on the sidelines. People are now coming back into the market, but it's a slow process, and foreclosures continue to be an issue, particularly because of unemployment. One of the programs that was announced last week, which I'll get some information to you all and we can get out into the community, is a program for homeowners where people have lost their jobs, and getting the banks to basically take a temporary write-down on the ability for the person to pay a percentage, a much smaller percentage of whatever they're earning. They pick up a lower income job for the time being to keep them in their house. The goal, of course, is if someone can stay in their house, we want them to be in their house, and certainly want you to keep up the neighborhood. When a home becomes vacant or abandoned, we know what happens. It puts downward pressure. It's a health and safety issue. It's a crime issue, and all those factors, so it's important. So I think there's some good opportunity to help stabilize that. There's also a group that called NACA. If any of you followed a few weeks ago.
Let me interrupt you once. What's that program called, so we can get, who should we?
HAMP. It's called HAMP. Home Affordable Modification Program. And we'll get you all the details on the program. There's a not-for-profit organization out of Boston called NACA. I don't know if any of you read a few weeks ago, they ran a program up in the West Palm Beach Convention Center, and they're doing another one down in Miami Beach on April 15th to 19th. They ran it 24 hours a day for 4 straight days, and they had over 25,000 people that were looking to come in to get their mortgages modified to the extent that they were eligible. And I'm sure you all have been facing this. We get a lot of people that call and say, I've been trying to get a hold of my bank, nobody's answering, the line's busy, nobody has the authority to make a decision. Well, this organization basically got all the banks into one location, and over that period of time, they modified over 7,000 mortgages on the spot. It was actually pretty amazing, and I think it really did a lot of good. They're doing it again. Again, we'll get you some information, and this is a regional thing. People can come from anywhere, but the next one will be in Miami Beach Convention Center. It's a good program, and again, for people who want to stay in their homes, if they're paying $1,600 and can really only afford $1,100, get their interest rate reduced. The banks have been willing to show some help on that, which is a positive thing. Second issue, small business loans. We are a small business community. We love our Fortune 500 companies. But we don't have enough of them in this area to really make a dent on where the jobs really are created and our economy really sustains itself. If you go up and down any one of our streets, you'll see a lot of shopping centers, you see businesses that many small businesses can't make it. 2 things. Number one, the SBA has a loan program in place now which guarantees 90% of the loan. SBA 90%. It's a good quality loan for the portfolio. Also, if you're a veteran, a man or woman who served in the Iraq or Afghanistan war since September 11th, 95% guarantee. It's a real solid loan for people who are qualified. So again, contact our office. We can help you make some contacts on that. The second thing is I'm a big believer in our community banks. These are the men and women in our community that know our community. You know, you go to church with them. You go to your kids go to school together. You coach Little League together. The banks have been struggling because a lot of them have a lot of upside-down real estate portfolios in them. There's been a discussion in Washington, which I'm pretty supportive of, taking some of the repaid TARP money from the big New York banks and push it down into our community banks and give them incentives to make loans in the form of discounts on the interest rate. And it's good, again, for our small businesses because we want to get more capital into the banks and make some access. And again, this is something that is being discussed. Third issue, the Homeowners Defense Act, something that Jack and I worked on for many years in the Florida legislature. It's trying to fix our homeowners insurance problem in Florida. We all know what the issue is. Citizens is the worst place we want to be. You want to have private companies competing in the insurance market, but we really haven't had that since, in a meaningful way, since Hurricane Andrew. We have come up with a bipartisan program in Washington. It's a piece of legislation that I introduced with a number of other members. It basically allows states to pool their high-risk casualties. In other words, it's not just hurricanes. That's always been Florida's problem. Matter of fact, my predecessor, Clay Shaw, worked very hard on this for a number of years, and what kept coming back to him, well, hurricanes are Florida's problem. Well, if you pick up the paper today, it's not just hurricanes anymore. It's floods, it's tornadoes, it's earthquake risk in California, it's winter storms. and the insurance companies in many cases have pulled back. So now we have a lot of interest throughout the country. Plus, I keep making the case to even the people in the Midwest where there's low risk that every taxpayer in the United States is on the hook when you have a major natural disaster. Because Katrina, they came back to Congress and said, write a big check of $110 billion, which every taxpayer paid for. So to the extent we can use this system to underwrite private insurance, use private insurance, not government, but private insurance to underwrite the exposure, we can reduce our taxpayer exposure. That's good, and I think we have a good shot of getting that passed in the next few weeks in the House. The President said he would sign it. We met with him, and we're working on this. Senators Lemieux and Nelson are working on this right now. Last is a non-controversial issue which none of you have heard about, health care. We are going to, there's a number of things on the small business side, the Medicare side, the government side. We're going to, as information rolls out over the next few weeks, we're going to host a number of meetings around town to get the HR, to the extent businesses have human resource people or the principals of the business, anybody from whatever sector here, we're going to get a lot of the information presented so you can get your questions answered, understand what's going on. Most of this does not take place for 3 years, even the pooling of the purchasing or any of the taxes or anything like that. But particularly right now, there are some insurance reforms on pre-existing conditions for minors, covering dependents in college, cutting off insurance companies from canceling you if you get sick, those kinds of things. But there's some things in the short term, and there's some things that we want to hear from you, and I've already started meeting with some of our agriculture interests in Broward and Palm Beach counties because they're concerned about some elements of that. Some small businesses have had some questions. I think there's some positive tax credits for small business. But we'll get you all the details, get all your questions answered, and if there are things we can do to make sure that it works the way it's supposed to or it needs to be changed, we'll be glad to take your comments on that as well. And Mr. Mayor, that is a little summary, and we'll get all this information to follow up to you.
We appreciate you coming out. Let me do this.